Welcome to the American Scottish Foundation Scots in Us, as we journey to Edinburgh, to the Edinburgh Book Festival, and where we join Tamara Zimet in conversation. Good morning, Tam, and thank you for taking some time out as you are in the midst of the Edinburgh Book Festival at this moment.
Can you tell?
Well, it's amazing what you are managing to do with it, with the challenges of this year, because you will have over 300 events going on, and you are now the largest public celebration of the written word in the world, as I believe. Wow. And you began in 1983, and I wondered if you could take us back and give us a sense of the history, how the festival came to be, and join the festival, and then we can go to where we are today.
For sure. Thank you, firstly, so much for having me. And yeah, we are in the middle. I think we're about a week. We are a week into the festival. We have another week to go. So all the team, everything is happening outside. I am in a fairly nondescript office, just trying to kind of get away from the noise. We have a big screen going on outside and lots of people. So we can come to all that later. But how we got here is the festival was founded in 1983. I will also say that I joined only about 12 months ago, so you're going to really test my organizational knowledge, but I will give you the basic and important facts. So yeah, we founded it in 1983, and it was the first literary festival in Scotland. And at the time, it was only one of 3 in the UK. And I think there are now more than 50 in Scotland and more than 350 throughout the UK. And I think the proliferation of these kind of books and ideas festivals is really about audience appetite. This is a place that loves to read. Yes. And in most years we welcome people from all over the world in droves, and this year is obviously slightly more localized, but the crowds are still coming, and it's wonderful. So in 1983 it was originally biannual, but then we became an annual event in about 1997. And I will say that when the book festival launched in 1983, I think there was a total of 120 authors in 84 events, which, to be honest, it still seems like a pretty large festival, But then in 2019, which is kind of our last, I guess, we call full festival before the pandemic, and we welcomed more than 900 participants in over 800 events. So that kind of scale and scope has been enormous. And there are, I think, Nick Barley, who's our current director, I think is the 5th director, and they have all, the 5 before him, or 5 or 6 director, and everybody has just played this really incredible role in shaping it into what it has become today. So we are, we owe them a lot, and we're very lucky.
So how are you dealing with presenting the pandemic, the festival this year as we come through the pandemic? You have a new home over with the University of Edinburgh, I believe, isn't it?
Yes. So it's at the Edinburgh College of Art, which is part of the University of Edinburgh. So they have welcomed us to our new site and our new home, where we'll be for the next however many years, which has been amazing. So last year in 2020, which seems like much longer ago than just last year, we kind of had to cancel and reimagine what the festival was going to be, because obviously it was going to be in our home at Charlotte Square and down George Street, where the festival has been for many, many, many years. And we shifted and was purely online. And so what that meant was we decided to build 2 broadcast studios at the Assembly Rooms, which is on George Street in Edinburgh. I'm pointing as if this helps, and I don't even think it's in that direction, but that's okay. And so we were able to do a mixture of in-person, but with no audience, events, and also Zoom. But this year things have shifted again, and so we've come to our new home, which hopefully will be out for a number of years, at Edinburgh College of Art. And it's a beautiful space because you kind of enter, firstly, we are able to have a physical bookshop again, which is hugely important for us and for the writers and for our audiences. And so my colleagues have turned an old fire station into this bookshop, which is light-filled and just full of the most, they've just done a really, really incredible job. And the first time we all walked in, everybody got quite everyone got very emotional, just because of what they've managed to do. And that's for, you know, that's for staff, and that's for authors and publishers, and everybody who has come in has had the same response. So we have that physical bookshop on site, which is also complemented by our online bookshop. And then when you come into the space, there's this big green expanse. And so we've built kind of outdoor seating and infrastructure. And so there are like little cafes and bars and all sorts of places to sit in the Edinburgh sun. And I say that because it's actually sunny today, which is remarkable for August. And we also have a giant screen. And so we are broadcasting live to that giant screen, so people can watch outside if they choose to, have a drink, have a snack, whatever that is. And so that people are able to obviously do that for free, which has been a really, really important part of kind of our, again, pivot, don't want to say pivot, but our shift into this space, to make sure that we are able to offer things accessibly, which the festival has always been a key part of the festival. But when you go inside, we have 3 different spaces. So we have the New York Times Theatre, which is in this beautiful sculpture court, which now seats 100 people. We have the Baillie Gifford Theatre, which is in another space, which seats about 60 at capacity. And then we have our very snazzy Castle View studio, which is upstairs in one of the kind of working art studio spaces, which overlooks, as per the name, the castle in Edinburgh. And it has very nice sunsets up there. But what that means is we're able to kind of really play with this hybrid model. So a lot of the time we will have 1 or more people in the theatre, in the studio space, and we'll be maybe zooming in 1 or 2, or sometimes everybody will be there together. And we're kind of able to play around with this model a bit. I also will say that this is, you know, it's a great and ambitious and kind of wild experiment that we're incredibly proud of, and we've also learnt a lot. And so sometimes we'll have full audiences who are sitting in front of people, and sometimes they'll only be on screen. But what we think is a really important aspect of this is that people, even if you're coming in on Zoom, you can see and hear the audience. So the other night, Salman Rushdie was being interviewed by Alan Little, and he made a joke vaguely at the expense of Norman Mailer. Anyway, and the audience laughed, and he was able to hear them laugh, and he kind of, you know,
could react to it.
React to that in that time, and it's an incredibly special thing to do. When it comes to audience questions, we are able to take questions in the room, and because we're broadcasting the events live, we also have a chat function down the side. Yeah. And so our digital audiences are able to ask questions, and then they are fed in onto an iPad on the stage with the chair, and if they're remote, they go to their device, and then they can ask those audience questions live. And so it's just a really special thing that I think we've been able to create. Obviously, there's no facsimile. You can't get every single essence of it just purely physical festival and put it online. But I think we've managed to find really interesting ways to give people that sense of connection that they might not usually have.
But I think that what has happened through all this is we've enlarged our community. So the book lovers who were sitting in Australia, or for us in the United States, are able to be with you even if we can't physically be with you.
Yeah.
And I think this has been one of the bonuses or the upsides to dreadful time, because I think our reach and the people who are finding out and being a part of the book festival this year and the other book festivals that have been going on has been terrific. We find huge interest in what's happening.
Absolutely. And I think that that's what we found after doing a purely digital festival last year, that the feedback from audiences, but also from authors and from publishers and other kind of partner organizations, is obviously for reasons of mobility or financial reasons or illness or whatever it may be, not everybody can be in Edinburgh for the 2-week dates in August every year or whatever it may be. And so giving people the opportunity to come together or to share ideas or listen to new stories, whatever it may be, is really, really important. And that was such a key part of what we learned from last year. And I'll also say that this really lovely thing that happened was that we had audiences on every continent around the world except for Antarctica. And I think actually my colleague tried to see tried to see how we could get to Antarctica this year, but I think that the stations down there, I'm not sure how their broadband is, and they might have other priorities, but they can always watch on catch up.
So you do have catch up. That was the thing, is because a 2-week festival, when people come to Edinburgh and they would go to the book festival, they might also be running off to see a play or going off to the art gallery because there's so much going on. But with such a rich program, and we can go over this later as we come to tell them, but they can catch up. You keep the programming up for several weeks, do you?
Yes, we do. So some of them are, it kind of depends on our arrangements with the authors. Some of them are up for shorter periods of time, and most are up for longer periods of time. They are also when watching online, it's pay as you go. And again, that idea of access is really important to us. So the payment for that starts at $0 and then goes up incrementally from that. But you really can make a choice of what you can afford to pay. Also, in terms of accessibility, we have BSL and we also have closed captioning, which is also on our screens outside. And our BSL people who are doing it live as well in the studio are extraordinary. There was a very tricky, I wouldn't say rude, but there was sort of, Jeanette Winston was on the other day and she was talking about sex and AI, and I was just watching our BSL people kind of work overtime. But they're doing it for every event. And so say tonight we have an event with the New York Times, who are one of our key partners. We have a series of 5 events with them this year. And so we're doing an event about humanitarian intervention, which obviously, considering what's going on in Afghanistan, is like an incredibly important thing to be talking about at any time, and it's particularly pertinent now. And just kind of watching our interpreters prepare for that is a very humbling thing. They are extraordinary, and we are very lucky to be able to work with them.
So, if we could just for a second hear a little bit about some of the authors, because they are the whole essence of the festival. So you have a wide spectrum, from cooking to children to politics, to every genre. Can you tell us about some of the work, maybe some of the, first of all, leading authors who are debuting works, and maybe some of the young, newer, first-time authors publishing for the first time?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a really good question. So I'm going to kind of talk about everything as it's happening, because we have 2 weeks and more than 250 events. Well, I'm sorry about that siren. 2 weeks and more than 250 events. I'm going to kind of talk about it as it is still happening, because you'll be able to capture it, or you can see it next week or whenever it might be. So I think one of the ones I will start with, because it's a welcoming home and so coming home to Scotland, is Douglas Stewart. So Douglas Stewart obviously won the Booker Prize last year for Shuggie Bain, and he will be coming to the festival for our closing night event. So I'm kind of starting backwards, but that's okay, which is on Monday the 30th of August. So he'll be on site here, and it's particularly special, firstly, because he'll be interviewed by the First Minister, Nicola Sturgeon, who has been an extraordinary supporter of the festival, as actually her predecessors have been. But she is a huge reader. But for Douglas Stewart, this is his first time coming back to Scotland since he's won the Booker Prize. It's the first time seeing his family, and we're just really, really honoured to be hosting him. So that will be excellent. As I mentioned the other night, we had an event with Salman Rushdie, who was interviewed expertly by Alan Little, who is one of our best interviewers. We also had Bernadine Evaristo, who she was presenting her selection of Black British writing. So these are books that were already published but had fallen out of print, and so it's called Black Britain Writing Back, this series that she's been partnered with Penguin on, and it's extraordinary. We've also had David Diop, who won the International Booker Prize this year. He shared that with his translator, Anna Moskovakis. He's French Senegalese, and his book is called At Night All Blood is Black, about some Senegalese fighters in the First World War, and it is brutal and heartbreaking and wonderful and very short and very addictive. I highly, highly recommend that. Who else should I talk to you about? We also had...
So you also have new up-and-coming authors as well. So it's wonderful, the opportunity to hear Simon Rushdie speak about his work, or these the Booker Prize winners, but also we love to hear about also some of the up and coming authors that are coming through, because this is such a wonderful opportunity for them to be a part of the festival.
Yeah, well, I think what makes Edinburgh, the book festival here, so special, and why I wanted to be a part of it so much, is that there is this kind of equal weight given to those kind of big names, as well as this kind of sense of discovery. And these people, I think it's really important to note, might be discovery to me or to like a small part of our audience, but that's because they might only just have been translated in English for the first time, for example. They might have been, wildly popular in their home country or in a different language other than English for a really, really long time. But I think, yeah, like you said, it's really, really exciting. And it's also a huge honor and thrill for us to be able to host writers who are just coming out. So last night we had Natasha Brown, who wrote a wonderful debut book called Assembly. She is from, she's actually from the UK, she's from London. She was in conversation with Olivia Sujic. This is, I think, Olivia's second novel. She has a collection of essays as well. The other day, I was very lucky to sit in on with Tori Peters. Tori Peters is the author of Detransition Baby. She's American, and if you're looking for, it's like a sexy, funny comedy. Oh, that's the siren that they're approving of Tori Peters. It's this kind of sexy, funny, like comedy of manners. And she's American. Cherie Jones as well, who's another writer. She has written a book called How the One-Armed Sister Sweeps Her House. I think she's actually a lawyer in her other life. She's a lawyer and a writer, which is mind-blowing. But so many people who are writers also, for obvious reasons, doing something else.
It seeps into another world.
It is another world. There's also Wyatt Moore, who had a book out a couple of years ago, and she's out with her memoir called The Giant, the Dragon, the Women, which is just excellent. Nadia Owusu, which is another memoir, which is kind of about being, it's about identity and third culture, and she's just has written it in the kind of tracking it as if it's an earthquake. It's called Aftershocks.
Don't you think that this, during the past few months, with us going through this pandemic, there has been such a resurgence to reading a book, to becoming involved? We have seen that from our listeners and members of the American Scottish Foundation, the hunger they've had and enjoyment they've had from joining the festivals. We joined I Write earlier this year. And but they don't need to just think it's going to be the Edinburgh Book Festival just in August. You are doing opportunities for us to keep up with the festival throughout the year now, aren't you?
So we do year-round programming, and as well, like we're starting to do more and more year-round programming, but also projects throughout the year, which has been a really, really lovely part. And particularly, I think it'll be a very interesting time for all the festivals as we kind of move. Like August will always be our key and most important dates, but also think about how we can kind of connect with people throughout the year. And like you said, I think readers have been. I think anybody who loves books has been able to find it quite, I wouldn't go as far as say soothing, but like a lovely thing to be able to do during the pandemic. But I also am acutely aware that people's attention span has been really, really tricky, right? I've definitely found that. I'm not sure about what your experience has been, but I think that for people who do love to read, it's something really, really nice to be able to go back to.
So Tam, there is also a part of the festival where you take new books and pair them with a filmmaker to make short films, I believe. How is that happening, coming together for this year? Is it all part of the festival now, or is this part of your ongoing program that happens later in the year?
So this project that you're referring to, which is one of my favorites, I'm like, I don't know if I'm allowed to have favorite children. This is one of my favorite It's fine, is our Reading Scotland series. And so this is actually supported by the Scottish Government's Edinburgh Festival's Expo Fund. And so what we did is we partnered with White Stag, who is a production company here in Edinburgh, and we selected 6 Scottish writers, some kind of emerging, up and coming, and some more established. And we paired them with a Scottish filmmaker to make essentially, we're kind of calling them like mood documentaries, because they are new. We're commissioning like new work, so commission new short films that respond to the text. And so it's not a literal kind of translation, but it's this kind of more a feeling or evocation. And they have made the most extraordinary, very short films, which we are showing at either the beginning or the end of these sessions. And so we have 6 writers and 6 filmmakers. And so as part of the series, the writer and the filmmaker are together on stage after the premiere here. And it has been really amazing to see what they've come up with. Because the writers, we have James Robertson, who has News of the Dead, and he partnered with a filmmaker called Anthony Baxter. We have Graham Armstrong, who has an incredible debut novel called The Young Team, and that has been kind of reinterpreted by James Price. Then we have Shola von Reinhold, who has partnered with Jamie Cruz, who is a filmmaker from Glasgow, and Shola's book is called Lote. Helen McClory, who has Bitterhall. Jen Hadfield, who is an extraordinary Shetlandic poet, she lives on Shetland, and also another writer, Ross Sayers. And so their films have all premiered at in their authors' events. And just the kind of conversation and collaboration that has come out of this has been so fascinating, because right from the get-go, when we approached the writers and the filmmakers, everybody was so excited to be able to kind of reimagine text and work like in this multidisciplinary way. And so I really encourage everybody to seek out on our website and on YouTube what they've made.
That's so exciting, Tam, that there's this wonderful opportunity for writers and filmmakers to be collaborating in this way. Can you just confirm to us how we can watch, see, catch up with all that's going on? There's more of the festival as we release this, but then people can still watch what has happened over the last few weeks to a large extent.
Yeah, absolutely. So the first way, obviously, is you can come, if you happen to be in Edinburgh, you can come down to the ECA and see it in person, either outside on the big screen or in one of our theatre spaces. The other thing you can do is you can watch online. So you can watch on our website, which is edbookfest.co.uk, and you can also watch, and you can catch up on YouTube. So those are the 3 ways. We also do publish podcasts throughout the year, which is a lovely thing to be able to do, because it means you can walk around and listen to these stories and ideas from, you know, the best writers from all around the world, from Scotland and beyond, as you're out on your morning walk or doing whatever you might be doing.
But also, we've got the Year of Storytelling coming up next year. And so I hope that we're going to be in close touch with you. And if we can catch up with you in the coming months as you prepare for what I'm sure will be even more events. And I won't ask you to tell us about them now. We'll look forward to catching up with you and hearing what's in store for 2022 in a few weeks' time.
That would be wonderful. We might need to lie down first and then sleep time.
All right, thank you, Tam. Enjoy the
total
rest of the
pleasure.
festival.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.